Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm a boomer.
And my name is Michelle, and I'm a millennial. And together, we're the Boomer Mill. So today, we are going to dive into how tech advancements have shaped our lives differently and what the future holds, especially with the rise of AI. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of background, both Jonathan and I work in tech, and we have worked, I guess, in the industry for a number of years. So we have some interesting backgrounds we're going to go into before delving into this topic. But why don't you get started?
Okay. Yeah, I come from kind of a different family in the 1950s, 1960s. My brother Joe was a literal genius. He was recognized by the Navy as being an electronics genius, wizard, because he'd already built his ham radio from a kit. He had put his antennas up. We're talking about a 17, 18-year-old young man. He did everything by himself without any instruction, just looking at the instructions that came on the box. And there was no internet in 1950. He had to go to people and watch what they were doing and come back and do it himself. So this young man built a complete amateur radio station, which would be sort of like having your own TV station nowadays. And they used it to connect to other radio operators. It was part of the Civil Defense Network, and he became part of that. Initially, he was too young to join the network, but they looked at this guy. They came over to the house, they met our mother, and they looked at his equipment that he had built. You know, there are tubes sticking out and wire sticking out. I was told from a very early age, don't go in there. And they looked at that and they said, you built this yourself, huh? And he said, yes, sir. And they said, okay. And they brought him into the network. That was sort of the background of my exposure to, let's just say, technology in the house. Mm-hmm. We had a TV, which was on 3 or 4 hours a day, black and white.
And that was unusual for the time.
Yeah. Having a TV was unusual. The family history is that my father's father owned an appliance store, and one of the appliances that were new at the time were televisions. So he brought one home so he could learn how to use it, so he could demonstrate it in the store. And I think at the time, TV had like 3 hours a day of programming.
And you said your brother Joe built all of your TVs, just like how you built your first computers in the 80s.
Yeah. He took that TV apart.
They're tinkerers in this family, lots of engineers.
He took the TV apart. He looked at it. He made a note of all the various components and the size and the wattage and that sort of thing. And so that was our first little TV. The next TV we had, he put a larger cube, the viewing area, in and did a lot of other things. And he built the TVs for the family for the rest of his life up to stereophonic, almost 3D color. He was still building those TVs. He would occasionally buy a kit because they had some advanced parts, but he'd always, trick it up to what he wanted it to be. So I come from kind of a technical background.
His brother went on to work for NASA.
Oh.
So there's a whole thing there too.
He got involved in aerospace, as it was called at the time, which ended up being.
And you were at the beginning of Microsoft, right. So you guys you're pioneers when it comes to tech.
Yeah, we came plunging into tech at different eras. Yeah, this may not sound like tech, but stay with me here. I took typing in my senior year of high school. There were 2 other boys in the typing class because at that time you were a typist, you were a woman. Mm-hmm. I wanted to type because that's a very fast way to put your words on the paper. And Michelle can vouch for this. If you've ever seen my writing, you want me to type.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn how to type. It's also kind of interesting. And I did learn how to type, and I went on to find out that I typed about 120 words a minute when I had full,
at 100% accuracy.
Yeah.
So they got everyone's attention in class.
Yeah, I remember one time we had these typing tests where for a minute you're supposed to type as much as you can, and then the teacher calls time, Mm-hmm. And this was longer than that. I think it was 2 minutes. And so we're typing out of the book, and she says, go. And I just start typing, and I'm blasting away as fast as I can. And I realized around she hadn't called time yet, but I realized I stopped and I looked around and everybody was looking at me. they had stopped typing because apparently they thought I was just pounding on the keyboard with my fists or something. So I didn't know it at the time, but typing like that is a tremendous advantage. We know now in our world using keyboards, and we don't use typewriters anymore. If we do, they're electronic, mostly laptops and desktop computers. Getting your thoughts out of your head into a document or a file is critical, especially when you're in a creative business like Michelle and I are in.
So fast forward into the 1980s.
The 1980s
and 90s.
80s and 90s were very interesting because there was this little company that started in the Seattle area. Some people have heard of, you might have heard of it, called Microsoft. And Microsoft at the time had a couple of offices in the downtown Seattle area. It's funny because I used to go to a bookstore down there and I'd walk past their offices and think, Microsoft, that's kind of, what the heck do they do, you know? Sounds like an ice cream company, you know? And they were not an ice cream company. They, you know, basically dominate the landscape then and now. I had moved into personal computers at the time. Personal computers were very expensive, and it took a long time to get one. And it was a little like having to order a car part by part, and then you got the parts and had to put the car together. So long story short, I figured out the sources for the cases, for the computers, for the hard drives, for the floppy drives, for the memory, and then the main circuit board called the motherboard. I sourced all those out, and I built first my own computer, and again, trying to keep things terse. Made some changes, found different vendors, and boom, all of a sudden I had a working computer that cost about 25% of what I could have purchased it for. Now, because I grew up in a store,
you started your own company.
I started my own company thinking, well, if I can build these, make 50% profit and save people 50% on another computer, there may be a market there. And I did that. I built hundreds of computers over the next, let's say, 10 years. I became an exclusive software dealer for mortgage document processing software. And
you worked on that with Paul Allen, Microsoft.
Yeah, they looked into that. They were thinking about acquiring some mid-sized companies, and they looked at purchasing the software company that I was working for. Decided not to go that way because they thought the market was too small. That's what they were looking at.
Later? Wow.
Later, yeah, you know, could have gone either way.
So around 2010, that's when we started working together.
Yeah. We were trying to help businesses move from the storefront to the internet. And
he came into my store and started teaching me this technology, and I immediately got it. And that's kind of how we connected. We were actually just friends and business partners for many years before, you know, we ended up together. So we connected through tech. We connected through community involvement in business. So, and the main thing that you did was SEO.
Right.
So
SEO. Most people have heard it, but SEO stands for search engine optimization. And that means optimizing a page or website so that the search engines, it's basically Google, can find that website when people are looking for specific terms. In Michelle's case, it would be wedding rings. There's a whole science behind There's a whole science behind this, like how big a search term are you looking for? Is it 40 words? Is it 2 words? Is it local? Are there specific terms like extra large wedding ring, you know, stone?
Back then in 2010, it was really easy. It was so easy to get the SEO working that I was literally just putting invisible text on the on my website. I was building meta tags into the images. There were a lot of things that you could do to get up fast. And I even changed the name of my company at the time to reflect the products I was selling. And I was #1 on Google within 2 weeks after you taught me this. And so it was just like, so he came in and he was like, you did all that? You knew what I was talking about? And I said, yes, of course. And that's how we kind of connected.
Yeah, that was the first. Basically, I had found somebody that could understand and do things at the speed that I understand and do things. And again, not, you know, patting ourselves on the head, but that's rare. That's really rare. So we've
been doing search engine optimization for over 10 years now, 14 years. And I didn't join your business full time until 2013 because I still had my store. That's a whole other story I can get into later. But what we found over the last 14 years is that most of our search engine optimization has morphed into cybersecurity. And so we went and we got our CompTIA training, our Cisco training to keep our clients' websites and online assets safe, because that really is going to be the world war that's coming our way. And it's really interesting to see how it's already panning out now. But in addition to cybersecurity, we're also getting all of our training and chops in AI because we like to stay ahead. And you and I are basically working with small and medium-sized businesses on how to use AI in their social media, in their cybersecurity, in their web presence, in their sales, in their platforms, in their products, as well as a way to help them claim ownership over their creative products and dialogues, because other nation states are starting to take some of those things via the internet and technology, which we're also going to get into. But just to give you a little bit of background on my tech experience, I started off learning how to type on a typewriter as a kid. We didn't get our first Mac until 1990. My parents were in the military and my father was given a Mac, and so we brought it home and we had to put all the little disks in and set up all the software and do all the commands. It was the green screen with the green blinking letters, and I got to play really fun games on it, like Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Any kid from the 90s has played that. The Oregon Trail, we all played that in school, and we all died of dysentery at the end of it unless we knew what we were doing. I took a lot of typing classes. I went from typewriters to computers. And the thing about my typing was I was fast, but I looked at the letters while I typed. And it drove my typing teacher nuts, because you're supposed to look at the book or the form as you're typing. And I just looked at the keyboard and typed, but I could do it accurately without looking at the form, because the way I'm a big reader, I would just read the form and then I would come over here and I would type it. So I was memorizing and typing instead of just looking and typing, which is not how they did it. So he wasn't going to give me an A in class, and I'm a grade grubber. And so I literally said, how can I get an A in this class? And he goes, just nonchalantly, build a website. And again, this was middle school. This is the early 90s, mid 90s. And so I did. I did. And I'm also a runner. And so I got all of the cross country and racing times in and around the United States. And I created an online database. I even drew out the banner. It was like a cheetah that I drew. And I had like all the stats and times. And so that was really fun. So I built my first website officially in 1995, which back then was crazy. But I got the A in typing class. So I'll take what I can get. But when I was also in middle school, we used something called AIM chat, which is basically AOL chat, and with all of my friends. And we had to create private rooms because pedophiles would get in and try to like nab us. It was crazy because we were like 11 and 12 years old doing this. We would go to a site called Ask Jeeves. That was our Google for like homework questions and things that we didn't have to go down to the library and get from a book or a card catalog. We played games like Sim City, which is really pertinent now, because if you shut down enforcement or police departments or services on this game called Sim City, the whole town went to heck, you know. So we played games like that. I got my first brick phone in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was a yellow Motorola Nextel i500, and it got really good props for like being perfectly usable, even if you dropped it like 3 stories of a building, or it was in a fire, or if it was charred or warped, because I was really rough with my appliances. So I could still make phone calls with it after one of my college roommates threw it out a window. So, I mean, it was a really cool phone. When I was in college, we used the Ethernet, so we weren't totally Wi-Fi yet, because this was in 2001, 2002. And in 2000, I believe 3, I joined the Facebook, which was only available if you had a college EDU email. So Facebook was not available to the public when we started using it in my generation. MySpace was really big then too. That became a place for musicians. And later in my college career, when I was getting my master's, I depended on Starbucks and Wi-Fi in college. Like I'd go to either the Starbucks or Sherry's, which is a little, pie and coffee place, to do all of my papers and everything. I would go there and do that. But I went on to get a master's in teaching, and I focused on high school communication arts and journalism. So I got extra certifications for InDesign, Google Docs, Front Page, Weebly, HTML5, things like that. I wanted to turn my classroom into a digital communications forum because I thought that was important. So I ran a digital classroom, absolutely loved it. My kids were like the best kids ever. I worked for just the greatest team of teachers, but 2008 happened, and it was only a matter of time before I was going to lose my job along with everybody else. So after I was laid off, along with many, many teachers in America, there's not a shortage, they're just laying us off. I opened my jewelry store, and it was online and IRL, and that's how we met. And long story short, I lost the jewelry store because my ex-husband, I got really, really successful with it, and he ran off with it as well as my identity, and that's like a whole other thing. So I started working full time with Jonathan, and we do SEO, web design, social media, cybersecurity. We're really getting heavy into AI, things like that. We gained a lot of Google certifications, and I became a Google partner under him, which was really cool. And I'm now working in AI with him, and we're studying the various platforms and capabilities, and it's just blowing our minds with what this can do for us technologically. But we also feel that this is a very scary thing, because if it gets into the wrong hands or the wrong authorities, it can be used for nefarious means. So we're going to talk about how the AI revolution will impact every generation. And this isn't just based on our experience. We did a little bit of research. I'm going to go ahead and put all of our sources in the description, but just to give you an idea of a few of them. McKinsey wrote an article called Modeling the Global Economic Impact of AI. There's another one called By Built In, and it's the future of AI and how AI is changing the world. We looked at 2 MIT technology reviews, what's next for AI in 2024 and how ChatGPT is going to revolutionize our economy. We also got all of our stats and information from the Council on Foreign Relations, that's CFR.org, the U.S.-China Business Council, which is uschina.org, and the Euromonitor, which is euromonitor.com. So you can look at all of these to check our stats. But the main thing that we want to kind of go into is that we are undergoing a major global economic transformation. And, AI is actually expected to add around 13 trillion to the global economy by 2030. And it's going to increase our global GDP by about 1.2% annually. So everybody should be benefiting from this. We should all be much better off as a species based on these great new technologies coming on. This growth is going to be a benefit to many advanced economies, more significantly, potentially widening the gap between developed and developing countries. And we're not sure what America is going to be. Are we going to be developed, or are we going to be developing? That's kind of where we're headed. The reason I say that is, in our experience here in the greater Seattle area, we're seeing a lot of immigration and dislocation. Did you want to kind of go into that, Jonathan, and what you're seeing?
Well, yeah. I've been when I was selling computers and automating mortgage companies, I was working in the area where I'm now living. Kind of ironic, but that's the way it is. And so I've been familiar with this particular neighborhood since the 80s. And it's always been sort of a very laid-back tech culture. People work very hard. They have a lot of hobbies. They have crazy fast cars because somebody figures out how to do something that they're the only ones that know how to do that, and everybody wants it. Boom, instant billionaire. There's been a lot of
billionaires.
A lot of billionaires and multi-millionaires around here. So it's always had a certain feel. It's always, you were not able to live here unless you were probably working around here, or you're the parent of someone who started back when I started here. It has taken an astonishing slide. I've seen this happen in other communities. Another story, I worked in real estate for a long time ago, and I've seen neighborhoods go from stable middle-class neighborhood to just sort of middle-class neighborhood to kind of cheaper than the rest of the area neighborhood to, oh my God, we have to get out of this neighborhood. And in my opinion, and I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, we're about halfway through that process on the way to how do we get out of here faster neighborhood. And there's no reason for it. The tech is still here. The stores are still here. The apartment buildings are still here.
There's more apartments than ever.
Yeah, but something is lowering the standard of living here rapidly. And that's probably another show. But we're saying that AI is going to be as significant in our community
as immigration and dislocation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily.
AI is going to displace workers. It's going to push them to migrate in search of new opportunities. And this is all due to job losses in their home countries. And this doesn't matter where you live. Everyone's going to undergo this because AI is actually seen as a greater job threat than immigration. And the reason we say that is we actually have some training in this. We could replace whole offices knowing what we know now, today. And that's a lot of jobs. So U.S. workers are twice as likely to worry about losing their job to AI than to immigration. But in the last, especially since COVID, 5 to 10 years, we've noticed that immigration has taken almost, I mean, how many percentage of jobs would you say in this area have been replaced by? In
this area, just an educated guess, I'd say more than half.
Okay, yeah. So we've seen a major immigration shift in our area. But they're saying that AI is also going to add to that as well. So American workers they're worried about losing their jobs to new technology, and they should be, because if you look at how corporations are currently treating the citizens in the United States, we don't have the social programs and modalities that other countries have in place to protect their citizens. And so that's why we're a little bit worried. So we went ahead and we contrasted how AI could be used, the West versus China, specifically an organization called BRICS. So BRICS is BRICS, okay, and it is made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, and the AEU. So, and along with other countries that are more in line with authoritarian regimes and dictatorships. They support oligarchies, so to speak. Then we looked at what the G7, which is more of the Western European approach to AI, is going to be. So we got these directly from the sources. Russia and China are seeking to undermine America's image in the world and aggravate more divisions in U.S. society. They're doing this with artificial intelligence, and they're offering both regimes and new tools to interfere with American politics and elections. And this is directly from the U.S. intelligence agencies. And NBC News said that Russia is contemplating how U.S. electoral outcomes in 2024 could impact the Western support to Ukraine, and probably will attempt to affect the elections in ways to best support their interests and goals. So the intelligence community is already doing annual assessments to global threats that are being used right now for AI, including our most current election in the United States. This is happening in other countries as well. It's not just the U.S. This is from the belfarecenter.org. They said that China's AI industry is reportedly in line with most advanced countries, and by 2025, China aims to reach a world-leading level in some AI fields, and by 2030, China will seek to become the world's first primary AI innovation center. So they're leading us, okay? If you look at China's current capabilities, policies, and industrial ecosystem in AI, there's some testimony by Jeffrey Ding before the U.S.-China Economic Security Review and Commission, if you want to look at that. Now, Western nations like the G7, what do they plan to do?
Well, this is starting to sound like an old cowboy movie, the bad guys and the good guys, and I'm not saying that everybody's all bad and everybody's all good, but the Western countries like the United States and EU, European Union members, they're looking on ethical AI use, how to use it, because AI can be the next real breakthrough, frankly, for our species, not just our civilization. If we can figure out how to engineer out diseases, how to engineer in intelligence, how to, do those things. I understand he's saying he's manipulating human life. No. We're getting rid of the things that can lessen the quality of human life. But AI can do those calculations in a month that would take this thing thousands of years to do. So we want to use it. We want to use it benevolently and frankly, profitably and productively, but we don't want to use it so that we can have a file on every single person and know exactly where they're located at any point in time, because they're required to keep something in their pocket that feeds to a national network that lets the people in control know exactly where you are at exactly what point in time, and probably know exactly who's around you at any point in time. That's not really been the focus of the Western nations. So we're working on trying to make it accessible, productive, and as benevolent and beneficial as possible. There's a legal development. The AI Bill of Rights was introduced by the Biden-Harris administration that exemplifies these efforts, and we'll monitor this and we'll cover it going forward.
So yeah, so in contrast, China and the BRICS nations that I mentioned before, they're rapidly advancing their AI capabilities with significant state investment and less stringent regulatory environments. So that gives them a lot of leeway to make breakthroughs. Their AI strategy aims to dominate the global AI supply chain, leveraging AI for economic and strategic gains. And so that's an exact quote. So they're looking to dominate the world economy. All right. And that's what they're saying. Okay. It's right out there. So the other economies, the West, that we are saying, they're calling China's mass exports as overproduction, or I've heard this a lot, it's called overcapacity. So that's the Chinese government. What they're seeking to do is what we think Walmart and Amazon did here. They're undermining the competition, and they're becoming a trade and export titan in the world. So there's no one cheaper, there's no one faster, there's no one better. That's what they're going for. Just to give you guys an idea, 5 million manufacturing jobs were lost because of companies outsourcing to China. And that's just the United States. So this decrease in the manufacturing employment began in 1950, which was his era, where 30% of the U.S. workforce was working in manufacturing. In the 2000s, the workforce dipped below 15%, and now we're below 10%. And that's according to the Singaporean Broadcasting Service. We got some of those facts from them. But we are losing the jobs, and we're not really seeing a real push to the economy. And the reason for that is artificially cheap Chinese products are flooding domestic markets and causing Western consumers to shift into the global market rather than focus on domestic products that are made here. So this goes from electric cars to solar panels to games to toys to published books and copyrighted materials, because copyright and ownership don't mean anything to Chinese manufacturers. They just make them, pump them out, and sell them. So I thought, oh my goodness, so that would make them the enemy, right? I don't really think so. This is my opinion. I do not think that China is our enemy here. I think we are our own worst enemy. And there was a really great quote. It was Professor Wang Yue. I hope that's how you say his name. He's the director of the Institute of International Affairs at Renmin University in China. And he argued that American and some Western corporations are to blame for the economic upset in our countries, including here in the United States. And that's because they simply chose to keep the profits that they make in China to themselves. They're saving crazy money. They're making great profits, and they're not putting it back into our economy in the United States. And he literally said, this was his quote, they made pots and pots of money, and rather than share it with their people, they kept it all to themselves. So the way that you kind of described this was, we're still sitting around a fire with sticks, looking at the beast that we caught, preparing to divide it up. And our global corporations, our CEOs, our big boys in the game aren't sharing the beast. They're keeping it all to themselves. So as a result, China has 30% share of global manufacturing right now, and that's just going to continue to go up. They have relatively cheap wages. They have an advanced technological capacity, which is just going to blow everybody out of the water. And they have full state support of their citizens and corporations. We don't have that. We're not protected here. They're just taking it. So this puts pressure on the West to share or face, in my opinion, and I'm going a little crazy here, a civil war, because I don't see corporations pointing the finger at themselves. They're going to point it at us. They're going to say, "Oh, it's your neighbors. Oh, it's these immigrants. Oh, it's because they're black and you're white, or you're white and they're black." They're finding any way they can to divide us so that they can keep the spoils. Okay, this is just one example. BYD is an electric car company. Okay, it's one of the biggest EV growing industries. Oh, it's one of the largest companies out there right now. Okay, they now own 11% of car manufacturing market, and they're a Chinese brand, and the cars are actually well made. They're not cheap. Okay, they're replacing Western brands. They're so well made, and their plan is to then expand these cars globally because they can be made cheaper and at a more quality rate. So we looked into this and went, wow, China is really just kicking our butts. How did they get all this technology? How are they doing all of this? Well, just like the professor said earlier, they're being backed by Warren Buffett. He's one of our guys. So he's going to China, making billions of dollars off of these cars, and they're not even sold here. They're taking over our industry. So what's stopping these guys from doing this? And then I'll let you get into what you saw with apps like Temu and things like that.
Oh yeah, Temu is sort of like again, this is just my opinion, so blame me. Amazon has decimated the small business market.
Yep.
If you're a small business in America now, you probably sell most of your stuff through your Amazon account, or at least you have a store or some other process, a website, but you're also selling on Amazon if you're trying to stay alive. Temu makes that look benign. Temu will produce its own stuff or allow other people to sell. They will undercut any price. If you look at Temu's prices, something that would cost, let's say $10 from an independent merchant or on Amazon is $1.25 with free shipping. How in the world is that possible? The box that it comes in would cost more than that in volume.
Yeah.
It's possible because, again, just what we've sort of found in our own research, and you know, numbers are funny, but it looks like they're being state supported.
Yep.
They get a lot of benefits, let's say, that other companies, even in China, don't get. The thing that surprises me, surprises us, is that Temu is allowed to advertise virtually anywhere in our economy.
Yes. And outprice all of our vendors, including Amazon, Walmart, etc. Because what Amazon did was it took Walmart's customers. What Temu's doing is they're taking Amazon's, and they're doing it using the same methodology. Anyone who knows the 1990s and grew up in my generation, they know when Walmart moved to town because it destroyed the downtown area. We actually voted them out in the town that I grew up in, and they said, sue us, and moved in anyway and decimated our downtown. So Walmart took over by outpricing us in the brick and mortar industry in America. And then along came Amazon. And Amazon did the same thing that a lot of retailers are doing now, is they went straight to the manufacturer. And so they're going straight to China and having it delivered to our door. So they just cut out the middleman. They cut out the box store. During COVID, no one could go to box stores as often anymore. And so Amazon exploded. Now Temu's coming for Amazon's customers. And so we basically wrapped our economy up in a pretty little package and gave it to China. And I don't blame them for taking it because they're manufacturing all of our stuff. And they're not the ones to blame. It's our corporate structures, our policies, and their ability to do this. We have one of the largest militaries in the world. You think they'd be able to get away with this if we said no? If the corporations and the government said you can't do that? No. So, and again, that's just my opinion. I mean, I was raised in the military. I know how strong we are as a nation. This wouldn't be happening if they weren't being granted permission to do so. So in 2000, we both saw this. Direct customer-to-customer business between China and the United States consumer was very minimal. And that was because they had limited internet access due to e-commerce and infrastructure. Trade primarily involved traditional wholesale and retail channels. And I know this because I had a jewelry store at the time. I bought all of my supplies direct from China, and I made crazy money in my jewelry store because I figured out what Jeff Bezos figured out, and I knew how to convert all of my my orders into Mandarin and the metric system. So now platforms like Temu have completely revolutionized this sector, and because they're leveraging China's advanced supply chain, which offers low cost, diverse products directly to U.S. customers, and it bypasses all of our traditional retail intermediaries. So, like going to the mall and buying stuff at Christmas is gone. Okay. This shift has significantly increased direct e-commerce transactions, making Chinese platforms formidable competitors to established U.S. retailers like Amazon. So, like I said, we wrapped up our economy in a pretty little package, and now they're able to sell direct from the manufacturing agencies on our search engines. So in addition to that, search engines are also going to make a huge shift in the next 5 years. We are search engine optimization specialists. We are Google partners. And so we try to stay up to date on everything that Google is doing as far as, sales, products, optimization, things like that. And do you want to tell them what the...
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
The next thing coming here is an AI assistant that can access, hopefully you can block Temu, but you would say, look, here, and here, or just across the broad market, I'm looking for this size of this, I'm looking for this many, it has to be this color, I need them by this date, and I will pay no more than X. And it will go out, cut a swath through all of these companies, anybody that has a website, anybody that has anything accessible online, come back to you with a report and say, okay, this place has this many of this size, this color, this amount, this, and so we recommend you buy this many from this company at this price, click here.
Well, and the way that search is going to change, and I read this in Search Engine Journal, is that our way of searching is going to be more assistant-based. And so it's not going to be you sitting down at a computer and typing in what you need to know or looking to make an appointment or anything like that. I'll give you guys an example. So instead of searching for like a good Italian restaurant in your area, you could get an AI assistant like ChatGPT to analyze your preferences and suggest personalized recommendations instantly. So you can literally say to your assistant, I'm in the mood for Italian food. And they're like, well, based on your preferences, we recommend this restaurant or that restaurant. And if you want to make it yourself, here are some recipes for this special sauce only made in Sardinia that we think you and your family would enjoy. So it's like having someone in the house. It's not like a computer that you're sitting down and researching and typing things out in. It's not going to require a lot of critical thinking. You're literally just talking to something who is doing what you want it to do, which is beautiful. And also what we know about AI, a little scary, which is why we're bringing all of this stuff in. So we're seeing that it can cause the new...
AI is going to become so good, or let's say effective at what it does, that it's going to eliminate a lot of jobs
done by humans traditionally. So it's going to replace most jobs, and we're using it and we're seeing this. So
the future, if I were the age that I was when I first sort of stumbled into computers and thought I can buy a motherboard and some RAM and a hard drive and make a computer and sell it, I would be studying prompt engineering
and hardware technician
and hardware,
and
but
robotics.
Prompt engineering is essentially the programming for an AI.
And that's what we're in.
You don't need the boot system. You don't need all the stuff that I used to do. You don't need any of that. The AI is already set up. What you have to do is figure out how to ask the right question and have it output in a format that will be immediately usable to you for that. And in the case of commerce, that means where is it? How fast can I get it? How much is it going to cost? And what is the standard pricing for that? Okay, take that and find it 50% cheaper. And I'll allow 2 more shipping days.
And China's going to blow us out of the water just based on that, because their economy is set up to really profit from this, and ours is set up to suffer unless we make some major changes. So there's a lot of economic implications that come along with this, because American companies are focused solely on profit, and that's going to prioritize AI over human labor. That's going to exacerbate a lot of wealth inequality already, and potentially lead to a global economic unstable job market until we can adjust to this new reality. So, we're going from the buggies and the whips to the cars. and we're going to have to put some things in place to protect ourselves moving forward. So there is a race to the top. This is according to the MIT Technology Review. Companies and nations are they're competing to lead the AI revolution, and there will be a race to the top where a lot of ethical considerations are sidelined in favor of this rapid advancement and dominance. So this could result in significant societal and ethical challenges worldwide. There's also going to be a lot of historical comparisons that we can look into, like just as like we had Prodigy, we had CompuServe, we had AOL back in the mid 90s. They were replaced with Google. AI is going to continue to evolve with all of the different current technologies coming out, and it's going to become outdated just as quickly. Like the software that I'm using to optimize our clients' social media right now is different than what I was using last month because I found something better. So it's moving that quickly. So I don't even sign up for memberships. I just do like 1 month at a time, knowing that there's going to be another company that's just going to blow this company out of the water. So even Google is predicting that Chrome will be replaced by AI systems just within a few years. They're saying conservatively, 4 to 5, but it could be less than that. So what do you think about humanity's future, Jonathan? What do you think is headed for us?
Well, I kind of remember, if you go back to the beginning of this video, I was around for a bit before computers came around. So I had all of the manual processes. I'd gone through that, from my early childhood into adolescence and into early adulthood, and then boom, all of a sudden involved in computers. That same change, that same level of change. Think about the difference between a newspaper that used to get thrown on your porch, that I used to do, and how you get your news now. It's not even close.
Yeah.
That same leap is going to happen. We will have a system that will probably, I hope that's not going to be this way. It would be very easy for the system to simply, here comes Terminator, take over.
Oh, yeah. Like imagine that we're having issues with the police and Reformation. So what's the way out of that? Well, you have robotic police because they're just responding to the situation with a completely detached program. No, who's responsible for that? I mean, I go RoboCop when I look at this stuff because I've worked for a lot of different people in my almost 41 years of life. And I've come into a lot of narcissists, and I go to the place where if this person that I worked under were to get this technology, what would they use it for?
Frightening. And there are people on the other side. What would a medical researcher do if they had the ability to do whatever? I'm not a gene splicing technician, so I'm going to not use the terminology. But if you could simulate the gene pattern through 100,000 generations of life and whatever it's called, you could do enormous research like that. Hopefully to help people live longer, to have better lives, and to move illness out of the community.
So yeah, we see AI as like a forest fire. Okay, you could burn the forest down and new growth will come the next year if it's done correctly. If it's done incorrectly, you burn down the villages, everybody, and we're just sitting on a ash heap. Yeah,
we're sitting on a rock looking at the embers. Yeah,
exactly. So we're trying to avoid like the Fahrenheit 451, the Big Brother. If you've read any of these books, Brave New World, we're trying to avoid a lot of those things. As far as the way that we're looking at AI moving forward. So maybe considering what kind of country do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a BRICS-based country where you're on autopilot and you're being told by your government what to do on a daily? We have a lot of people that we know that would be very comfortable with that. They want people to tell them how to do and how to be and how to act. And they don't want to have to think. They don't want to have to go to learn all these skills. They want to be told what to do. And we have a lot of colleagues and people that we work with that are the complete opposite. They're innovative thinkers. They like to learn things at their own pace. They want to figure out these systems and improve them. They want to look at their environment in the capacity of how does this improve my community? And there are people that are just as intelligent that want to use this as a weapon. So it's like fire. It can cook your food or it can burn your house down. So we are really concerned about the ways in which this technology is going to be used moving forward, just like every technology that we've come across as a species. And we'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts in the chat, because there's a lot of news and hubbub in and around this topic, and we view your feedback as very valuable. So you can please leave your comments in the chat. You can also email us. It's theboomermill@gmail.com. You can visit us on our website, and it's theboomermill.live, and I have that right here below us. But we are really interested in what you guys have to see and what you're seeing in your environment. So is there anything else you'd like to add, Jonathan?
Don't be afraid. Seriously, don't be afraid. It's easy to get scared by these things. That's why they make the science fiction movies with the killer robots and things like that. It's easy to just, go to the extreme. Think about how you can use it in your own life. And it doesn't have to be 100% benevolent. You don't have to do gene splicing to look for cancer cures. But how can you use it in your own life productively, and so that you can maybe share that with someone else? Because the way that we're going to walk through this is that we are going to have to hold hands and share and make sure that it doesn't go spinning off into Terminator.
Yeah, or Brave New World, or Fahrenheit 451, or whatever dystopian novel. Farm, like, what is the other one? Animal Farm. I was an English teacher, so so yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts, and yeah, please follow us. We are the Boomer Mill. We're on, if you go to our website, you can find out where you can download our podcast. We're pretty much everywhere now, and we really appreciate you for tuning in. We've gotten over 7,000 views for just 2 videos, and we just started the channel, so we're definitely onto something, and we want to expand and include you guys on our journey. So yeah, go ahead, leave some comments. Please subscribe, because we're noticing we're getting a lot of views and not as many subscribers. So that would be great to let us know that we're on the right track. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to be here again in 2 weeks. We're here every other Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific. And we look forward to seeing you all then. Our next show is, this show is obviously on the 11th. Our next show is going to be on July 25th. And again, you can go to our website, and it's theboomermill.live to see when those podcasts are dropped. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks very much.
Take care, everyone.